It was meant to be a relaxed evening on Real Time with Bill Maher, a royal guest, a refined conversation, and perhaps a few clever jabs at the monarchy. But what happened that night became one of the most memorable interviews in late-night television. Viewers expected humor and insight. What they witnessed instead was a psychological duel between Bill Maher's wit and Prince Harry's pride, a live confrontation that quickly became impossible to forget. The lights brightened, the jazz rock intro faded, and Bill Maher straightened his cue cards. Smiling at the audience, he gestured toward the entrance. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prince Harry." Applause mixed with curiosity filled the studio. Harry walked in wearing a sharp navy suit without a tie, casual yet self-assured. He gave a brief wave and slouched into his chair beside Bill, as if he were in a club of his own making. "Good to have you here, Your Royal Highness," Bill greeted, friendly but playful. Harry smiled thinly. "Technically, I'm not royal anymore, Bill, but I guess the title helps people remember who I am." A few polite laughs followed. Bill raised an eyebrow. "So you're officially just another civilian now? Living off Netflix and nostalgia?" The audience chuckled louder. Harry didn't. He leaned back, arms crossed. "I'd call it freedom, not resentment. You should try it sometime. Take a few decades off and see how free you feel." Bill grinned, though the tension had already begun. "Touché. But I doubt I could afford the kind of freedom that comes with royal inheritance." The audience laughed, but Harry didn't flinch. He took a sip of water and smirked slightly. "It's funny," he said. "People always bring up money when it's about my family. As if you don't earn millions mocking politicians every week." "Ah," Bill replied with a nod. "So that's the tone tonight." The mood shifted. Bill sat up a little straighter, aware that control of the stage was now in play. "So tell me," he continued evenly, "you've spoken a lot about mental health and the pressures of fame. Do you ever think that giving endless interviews about privacy might sound a little contradictory?" Harry smirked. "Only to someone who doesn't understand nuance, Bill," the audience murmured. Bill looked amused. "Nuance, huh? You mean asking the world for privacy while signing another book deal?" Harry's eyes narrowed. "I see what you're doing, trying to make me look like a hypocrite for sharing my experience. But maybe it's hard for someone who's never lived under that level of scrutiny to understand." Bill chuckled. "Oh, I think I understand ego quite well. Hollywood's full of people who believe they're the center of the universe. You'd fit right in." Harry's jaw tightened as the crowd laughed. He pretended to shrug it off. "Maybe, but at least I didn't build a career making fun of everyone else's lives." The room went heavy. Bill smiled thinly. "True, you built one complaining about your own." Laughter, applause, even a few gasps. Harry forced a smile, but the irritation in his eyes betrayed him. This wasn't going to be a polite chat. They moved to lighter topics for a few minutes, and the environment, social causes, charity. Bill cracked jokes. Harry deflected them with confident indifference. But when the Queen came up, Harry's tone hardened. "I loved my grandmother," he said quickly, "but the institution she led was deeply flawed." Bill nodded. "Flawed, maybe. But she carried herself with dignity, something we seem short on tonight." Harry's eyes flickered. A small smirk appeared. "Careful, Bill, you don't want to sound jealous." Bill tilted his head.
Jealous of what?
"Bad press and family drama? I've already got Twitter." The audience burst into laughter, but Harry wasn't amused. He leaned forward, voice lower. "You think this is funny? You think being royal means we don't bleed like everyone else?" Bill met his gaze, his tone calm but sharp. "No, Harry. I think being royal means learning grace." Silence followed, the kind that tightens the air but holds attention. Harry broke it with a scoff. "Grace is overrated." Bill smiled slightly, sensing both risk and opportunity. "Then tonight should be perfect." Laughter returned, but now it was uneasy, the kind that lingers between admiration and discomfort. Bill could tell this interview was no longer a conversation. It was an unraveling. The mid-show applause rolled in like a light rain that didn't cool the tension. Bill shuffled his cards, scanning notes he didn't need. He could feel the energy in the room slipping toward a cliff. "Let's try something simple," he said, voice smooth. "You've criticized tabloids for invading your privacy. Fair. But you also made a 6-part documentary about your private life. Isn't that like condemning sugar while running a bakery?" Laughter rippled. Harry didn't react. "The difference is consent, Bill. My story told by me. not stolen by others. That's called agency. Sure, Bill nodded. But agency isn't invisibility. When you monetize your life, people will check the receipts. Harry leaned forward, elbows on knees. Maybe you're confusing public interest with public entitlement. You think watching the show gives you ownership? And you think starring in it means you're immune to reviews, Bill replied. The audience murmured. Harry's smile faded. Bill softened, half sincere, half host instinct. Look, I'm not dismissing your struggles. I'm asking if you sometimes mistake criticism for persecution. There's a difference. Harry exhaled, pretending patience. It's amazing how often people with microphones explain my life to me. Well, Bill said dryly, you keep accepting the invitations. That's because people care about change, Harry said. I'm pushing old institutions to evolve. The press, the monarchy, this whole celebrity culture. If that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. Uncomfortable is my brand, Bill replied. But it's not the truths that bother people. It's your tone. You come off as, what's the polite word? Exceptional. Harry's eyes flashed. I am an exception, Bill. I didn't choose this. I adapted. Bill raised his palms. All right, Darwin. Let's talk adaptation. He tossed aside his card. In your book, you reveal everything. Fights, frostbite, family texts. You burn bridges, then complain about the smoke. Why expose what you say you wanted to protect? Harry's jaw tightened. Because secrecy allows abuse to survive. Sunlight heals. And sells. Bill added quietly. Laughter, then silence. Harry nodded slowly. Right. Let's pretend you don't get paid to tear people apart. I don't tear people apart, Bill said calmly. I challenge ideas. If people can't separate themselves from those ideas, sparks happen. Harry leaned back, pretending boredom. Classic American late night, smug jokes, moral lectures. Call it free speech and clock out. Bill raised his brows. You do realize smug lectures were the monarchy's specialty? The audience cracked up. Harry glanced upward, then back with a thin smile. You're proud of that one. I am, Bill said. My writers will want credit, he continued, tone steady. You've said you left for your family's mental health, fair. But you've also kept your life in the media spotlight. Can you see why people think it's contradictory? I see why people like simple stories, Harry shot back. Hero, villain, fool. You're the fool. I get it, Bill's smile thinned. I prefer satirist. Fools wear bells. I wear ratings, the audience laughed. Harry didn't. There it is, he said. The act. You're on TV, Harry, Bill replied. Not in a monastery. Silence stretched. Then Bill exhaled. All right, let's reset. What do you want from the public, honestly? If you could choose, what would it be? Harry answered quickly. Respect? For what? Bill asked. For being human? You're not criticized for being human, Bill said evenly. You're criticized for claiming to be ordinary while living extraordinary. Harry folded his arms, staring past the cameras. Maybe you can't handle any reality that doesn't fit into punchlines. And maybe, Bill said, you can't accept that criticism isn't cruelty. Sometimes it's just a mirror. Harry laughed sharply. Says the man who interrupts for a living and calls it insight. Bill blinked once. I've been insulted by better. The audience cheered. Bill continued. Even you talk about duty. In your past life, duty was ceremonial. Now it's rhetorical. You tell the world what to do, but who appointed you? Nobody appointed you either, Harry shot back. I was hired, and I can be fired, Bill said. The monarchy doesn't offer that option. Harry smiled without warmth. The monarchy has its own kind of firing. We call it exile. A few audience members murmured sympathetically. Bill caught it. Fair, I don't fault you for leaving. But the global grievance tour afterward, that's different. Truth isn't grievance, Harry said. Depends how often you invoice it. Bill replied softly. That one landed. Harry's face flushed red. He paused, choosing between restraint and rage, and then chose disdain. You're clever, Bill. But clever people mistake cynicism for wisdom. And entitled people mistake their pain for purpose, Bill shot back. The audience gasped. The producer signaled from the wings. Keep it light, Bill tried. New rule, he said. If you demand privacy, stop giving your therapist co-producer credit. Laughter broke, then faded as Harry leaned toward the mic. New rule. If you value decency, stop calling cruelty satire. Bill's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't punch down. I punch up. Tonight, up just happens to be a man who thinks he's above the weight class. Harry clapped once, Slow, mocking. Bravo. Bill straightened his cards. We'll take a break, he said to the camera, smiling tightly. When we return, we'll try a conversation instead of a coronation. Applause. The band played them out. As the red light went off, Bill turned to Harry. You okay? Harry's reply was low and sharp. I'm fine, but stop talking to me like you're my headmaster. Bill's tone cooled. Then stop acting like the prefect. Harry looked away. A stagehand refilled untouched glasses. The floor manager counted down to the next segment. Bill inhaled, exhaled, and faced the camera again with a host's practiced smile. We're back with Prince Harry, he said smoothly. I think we've both had enough water to survive the next round. Light laughter. Harry didn't join in. He sat stiff, hands clasped, looking like a man enduring his own roast. The tension that had simmered earlier now felt thick enough to taste. Bill smiled. Cautious, professional. All right, let's start fresh. You've done meaningful work for mental health advocacy. I respect that. Good, Harry said curtly. At least you respect something. The audience groaned. Bill laughed lightly. I try. It's my therapy. Harry leaned back. Maybe try actual therapy. Might make your humor less bitter. The air snapped, a line that hit like a slap. The crowd gasped. Bill nodded slowly. All right, going straight for the jugular, I see. I can respect that. Takes courage to psychoanalyze a man whose job is delivering monologues. It's not psychoanalysis, Harry replied evenly. It's observation. You seem like someone who hides behind humor to avoid real emotion. Bill clasped his hands together. You mean like a certain prince who hides behind interviews to dodge self-awareness? Laughter and scattered applause filled the room. Harry's jaw tightened. You really don't know when to stop, do you? He said sharply. And you really don't know when to start, Bill countered, tone calm but razor-edged. We invited you here to discuss your causes, your projects, yet all you've done is criticize the platform giving you that voice. That's irony, Your Highness, Harry let out a cold laugh. Irony is thinking people watch your show for your insight when all they want is to see you argue. Bill raised an eyebrow. And yet here you are arguing. Maybe this is your natural habitat. The audience laughed again, though uneasily this time. No one sure where the line stood anymore. Bill adjusted in his chair. Let's get serious for a moment. You've been very outspoken against the media, understandably, but you're here on one of the largest talk shows in America. Do you not see how that might appear contradictory? Harry's lips curved slightly. You journalists love that word, contradictory. It's like your security blanket when you can't handle someone smarter than you. The crowd murmured, half gasp, half disbelief. Bill blinked, mildly surprised but composed. Smarter than me, huh? That's bold. Careful, you're starting to sound like Kanye. Laughter erupted, but Harry didn't react. At least he built something. You just sit here tearing people down for ratings. Bill took a slow breath. I think you're mistaking satire for destruction. I don't tear people down, I reveal absurdity. And tonight you've given me an all-you-can-eat buffet. The audience roared, but Harry's face stayed still. You're exactly why people despise the media, he shot back. You twist words, mock pain, and pretend it's entertainment. I don't mock pain, Bill replied sharply. I mock hypocrisy, and right now you're serving plenty of it. Harry gave a dry smirk. I'm sure that's what you tell yourself to sleep at night. The words lingered in the air. Bill's face shifted, not angry but disappointed. You know what, Harry? You've had every opportunity to show who you really are tonight, but instead you've spent it sneering at everyone who questions you. That's not confidence. That's insecurity with an accent. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Harry leaned forward, voice low. You think sitting behind a desk gives you the right to lecture me on self-awareness? Bill mirrored his posture, calm but unyielding. No. I think decades of honest dialogue give me the right to call out a man who mistakes questions for therapy sessions. Harry scoffed, shaking his head. You Americans love pretending you're the world's moral compass. Maybe that's why your country's falling apart. The laughter stopped. Even the crew froze. Bill didn't move for a moment, then spoke evenly. You just insulted an entire country on live television, Harry. Hope that felt good. Harry shrugged. Truth stings, doesn't it? Bill nodded slowly. No, arrogance stings, and you're bleeding from it, the audience murmured, split between awe and discomfort. Bill turned slightly toward the camera. I've interviewed presidents, scientists, even extremists, and arrogance always sounds the same no matter the crown it wears. Harry abruptly stood. Are you calling me insane? Bill remained seated, tone cool as glass. No, I'm calling you exhausting. The room burst, laughter, gasps, applause. Harry's face flushed red. The producer waved from the wings, but Bill ignored it. We'll take another short break, he said smoothly. When we return, maybe the prince will find his sense of humor. Harry muttered something under his breath. Only pathetic was caught by the mic. Bill smiled faintly. And on that note, don't go anywhere. As the band played, the applause felt uneasy. When the on-air light dimmed, Bill leaned forward quietly. Keep this up, he warned, and you'll learn what happens when people stop laughing. Harry didn't respond, just smirked and looked away. Bill sat back, expression unreadable. He'd handled difficult guests before, but this one was different. This was about to make headlines, and not for good reasons. The red light flicked on again. Bill straightened his notes, one last chance to steady the ship. The audience was silent, sensing the storm wasn't over. Welcome back to Real Time, Bill began calmly. We're joined by Prince Harry, who seems to have some very strong views about the press, the monarchy, and now the United States. Harry smirked. I call them facts, Bill, but if labeling them opinions helps you sleep, be my guest. A few awkward laughs rippled. Bill's jaw tensed. The restraint was visible. Comfort's overrated, he replied. Let's talk facts. You say you value privacy, yet you've built a brand on oversharing, books, interviews, documentaries. That's not privacy. That's production. Harry's eyes hardened. You think you're clever, don't you? Pretending to be objective while you provoke for sport. Bill didn't flinch. I provoke discussion, not pity. The audience gasped. Harry blinked, caught off guard by Bill's composure. You're a perfect example of American hypocrisy. You love free speech but can't handle opposing views. Bill raised a brow. Oh, I can handle plenty. I just prefer dialogue over condescension. Condescension? Harry scoffed. You built a career mocking people who can't respond. Bill leaned in slightly, his tone steady but sharp. I've had presidents, generals, billionaires in that chair. All survived an interview without acting like spoiled royalty. Laughter and applause erupted again. Harry's cheeks flushed. You think I'm spoiled because I won't let you control the narrative? No, Bill replied. You're spoiled because you think you are the narrative. The room shook with reaction. Harry froze, then let out a dry laugh. Typical. Speak your truth and it becomes a punchline. Only when the truth sounds like a sales pitch, Bill countered. The crowd cheered. Bill stayed composed. Let's be real. You're angry because people stopped buying the act. The wounded prince, the rebel royal. It worked for a while, but the audience moved on. Harry's nostrils flared. You don't know what I've endured. You're right, Bill said quietly. But judging by tonight, it seems you don't either. The silence was heavy. Harry's voice broke it. You invited me here just to insult me. You think that's brave? No, Bill said softly. I think ending this is. He set his cue cards aside. I've been hosting this show for decades. I've had tough guests, arrogant guests, but never someone so opposed to actual dialogue. So I'm ending it here. Harry blinked. You're what? I'm ending the interview, Bill said calmly. This isn't a conversation anymore, it's a tantrum in a tuxedo. Gasps filled the room. Harry stood abruptly. You're kicking me off the show? Bill nodded. I'm asking you to leave politely before you say something you'll regret. You can't do that, Harry snapped. Do you know who I am? Yes, Bill said evenly. And that's exactly why you should go before people remember who you used to be. The audience erupted. Cheers, claps, whistles. Harry's face turned crimson. This is unbelievable. No, Bill said. This is live television. The difference is I know when to stop talking. Harry yanked off his mic. You're pathetic. And you're done, Bill replied, signaling to the booth. The cameras caught Harry storming off as the crowd applauded. Half shock, half release. Bill sighed and faced the camera. Well, that was one for the archives, he said dryly. Tonight's lesson, even royalty needs a sense of humor and timing. The theme music rolled. Behind the scenes, Harry was gone before credits hit. leaving behind an empty chair and a viral moment destined for headlines. Bill sat quietly under dimming lights. For a man who'd spent decades flirting with controversy, this one felt different. Not because he'd clashed with a prince, but because he'd drawn a line. A line between honesty and arrogance, between humor and hostility, and Bill Maher, with perfect timing, had chosen to stay on the right side of it.